they give you a lot of tips when you're traveling when you're young, but one thing I never got told was don't ever turn up in Scotland at the start of winter, particularly if you don't have a place to live, a job, a work permit, or any money. Wasn't my smartest move. So this is what I did years ago when I was quite young. So I'm from New Zealand originally, and I went to work in the hospitality industry in Australia, and then I got this great job with a travel company in Europe. So I spent my spring, summer, autumn, this is the northern spring, summer, autumn, traveling for this company, and then in the northern winter I would get a hospitality job, so working in a restaurant or a bar, and that's how I'd spend my winters, and then work for the travel company again once it warmed up a little bit. And one year I had this amazing job organised for me in Scotland, and it was live-in. I didn't need a work permit, which was handy because I didn't have one. And it included all my meals, and I got to wear a kilt while I was working behind a bar, which is great because who doesn't love cross-dressing while they're working? That was all great until I actually turned up in Scotland after having travelled around for a bit after my contract finished, and found out that the job had been given to somebody literally 48 hours before, a job that I thought had been held for me. So now I'm stuck in Scotland at the start of winter with no job, no money, no work permit, no ticket home, no place to live. Things are looking a little grim. Luckily I'm fat and hairy, so that'll see me through the start of winter, but not all of it. So I made up some creative paperwork. I made up a CV that had a work permit number that may not have been legal, and a couple of friends of friends in Glasgow mentioned that there was this rock and roll chef. Now, I'm not a fan of celebrity culture, but this guy was a legitimate rock and roll chef, as in he had travelled around the world as the personal chef of people like Tina Turner, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Guns N' Roses, personal favourite, and also Bryan Adams, but nobody's perfect, so. I thought, this sounds fantastic. He was a Glaswegian, and he was opening another restaurant in his hometown. So I turned up there with a freshly forged CV, walked in and presented my wares to the guy who was doing the hiring, and he wasn't very receptive. And I was like, but my CV is fantastic for hospitality. What can the problem possibly be? Then I looked around the room and noticed that this place was due to open in about 2 days, the grand opening. And every single staff member was young, gorgeous, and female. So I missed out on at least one of those criteria. And he gave me the old, oh yeah, we'll call you. And I was like, okay. So I'm doing the mournful drudge across the bar, out to the door, onto the street. This is Bath Street in Glasgow, so it's subterranean, just to make it a little bit worse. And just as I'm about to exit out the door, I hear, Joe. And I look back across the bar, and a guy sticking his head out the door I used to work with in Sydney 2 years before, and he was the general manager. He was like, yeah, come in, we'll give you a job. I'm like, but I'm not very pretty. Didn't matter, he gave me a job anyway. And this place was great. Now the chef, the rock and roll chef I mentioned, his name's John Quigley, and he did tour around the world with all of those bands and artists I mentioned. In fact, when he was in Scandinavia, after a Guns N' Roses concert, Slash, who I'm sure you all know, the guitarist for Guns N' Roses, said, I want barbecued reindeer. And he had to make it happen in the middle of whatever city they were in Scandinavia. Now the most rock and roll thing about that is that once John Quigley, the chef, had prepared the reindeer, Slash didn't turn up to eat it. I've got no idea what a rock and roll star might have been doing after a concert in Scandinavia, but I'm sure it was better than reindeer. Now, I was working at this place, and John Quigley, who had his restaurant, the bar next to it, I was working in the bar. And the bar got really, really busy at night. We'd be 3 or 4 deep, you couldn't talk to people, it was just bang, 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 serving drinks. And around the corner there was an area where earlier in the night, when it wasn't so busy, we would serve meals as an overflow from the fine dining restaurant that John was operating. I got sick of people yelling at me over the bar. So one night this guy walked up to the bar, I gave him my best smile and said, hey mate, how you going? And he was like, gin and tonic, vodka soda, and turned his back on me like this. No. So I tapped him on the shoulder, turned around and said, I think what you were trying to say there was, can I please have a gin and tonic and a vodka soda? Now, I don't do a Scottish accent very well, but what he said was something along the lines of, fuck you, you're a fucking bartender. You're paid to make fucking drinks, just make the fucking drinks. And I replied with something like, I'm sorry, sir, that won't happen. Or maybe slightly different terminology, but I'm from New Zealand. He stormed away from the bar, calling me a rude fucking Australian. So I yelled back across the bar, I'm actually a rude fucking New Zealander, you dumb English prick, because I knew he was Scottish. He came back around the bar 20 seconds later, and it was at that point I realised that around the corner, the owner of our place, John, the rock and roll chef, was having dinner. He wasn't actually working that night, so he was probably sitting in one of those booths, possibly with this guy. And he walked back to the bar, and I thought, fuck it, I'm not backing down. So as he walked back to the bar, one of the Scottish barmaids went to serve him, and I said, no, he's my friend. So I stepped up to the bar and said, can I help you? He said, yeah, look, I wanted to apologise. I was really rude before. I work in the industry myself. I should know better, so I'm really sorry. Can I please get a drink? I said, yeah, of course you can, no problems. Served him a drink, gave me a tip. He asked me about where I was from in New Zealand. And as he walked away, the Scottish barmaid I worked with said, did you know that it was Gordon Ramsay?